Quick disclaimer, most of the footage you're about to see in this video does take place in the back half of the game Pokemon Sword, so if you do want to avoid visual spoilers, please don't watch the video. Feel free to listen as I don't spoil pretty much anything audibly, besides very minor details, but if you don't want visual spoilers, this is your warning. Enjoy. Hello and welcome! I am Zabraxi, and I want to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. This isn't going to be one of those typically reviews that I would normally do, like a Divine Design or some of the other game reviews I've done in the past, like Drop Zone or Titanfall 2. Unfortunately, time just does not allow for that right now. But I have been playing Pokemon Sword in particular since it came out on Friday, basically every day, and I've gotten probably about like 60 to 70 hours into it, and I have a lot I want to talk about, a lot I want to say, and this is going to be that. So I'm going to make this a little bit nicer. I'm going to spice things up a little bit. Maybe I'll show what I can, because I just don't have all the footage, because I also played this at a friend's house for over the weekend, so that limited my game capture. But anyway, if you want to hear my thoughts about Pokemon Sword and Shield, I felt kind of obligated to talk about this. There has been such a crazy kind of controversy after controversy around this version of Pokemon, and I just feel kind of compelled to really weigh in on the game as a whole, as it is. I'm going to leave aside a lot of the controversies. I just want to view this product in this video as it is and talk about that. If you don't know me, by the way, in my reviews, I don't do scores, really. I just give exactly how I feel, and I try to be as objective as possible, though being Pokemon, when we talk about, say, like the Pokemon, for example, this will be so a level of subjectiveness, especially as far as design goes. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the story. The story in this Pokemon game is incredibly generic. It's the epitome of just enough to get you from start to finish, and that's about it. I mean, you can predict basically every twist, every turn, every change, every character development that happens along the way. Every single one of them. Nothing was a surprise. Nothing, and because of that, nothing was exciting, really, from a plot perspective. I never felt like there was any real danger or threat or interest. There are some funny characters that are introduced along the way, especially at the end. I don't want to emphasize what they do for the sake of spoilers, but their names are Swordbird and Shieldbert, and they're pretty great characters, actually. They're a lot of fun, and you'll have a lot of that going on in the game, but unfortunately, that's it's very limited as far as what characters are good and what aren't. To point out some other good characters, though, that are in the story, you would have two of your three rivals. You have three rivals in this game: Hop, Marnie, and Bede. And Hop, pretty much until the end game, is super boring, a super letdown, super straightforward, and not interesting at all. Marnie and Bede are fine. I actually really enjoy both of them, especially Bede. As time goes on, Bede's story and character development and the things that happen to him are actually really funny and really great. And it's almost like Pokemon is trying to play a joke on that kind of like jerk rival. He's like the typical Blue, or Gary if you want to call him that, or Silver. Say, for example, like those jerk rivals. They really mess with that idea and really play fun with it. So I actually thoroughly enjoy that. And the other set of characters that are actually really, really good are the gym leaders. This is the first Pokemon game I think really in a while that the gym leaders, all of them, kind of get their own real show. They get their own real character development, and you kind of know a lot about them before you get there. This isn't like Gen 1 Brock, where you just kind of show up, and Misty, and you just kind of show up. But they're not necessarily to the same extent as, say, like Giovanni. In his development, it's not quite that in-depth, but every gym leader gets almost like a Sun and Moon treatment, where the trials and the gym leaders get a lot more going on, and the detail is more engaging. Thankfully, this game as a whole, I will just say this up front, is better than Sun and Moon in pretty much every capacity, though I can personally say, at least very biasly, Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon are my least favorite alongside Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Those two iterations, or those two generations of game, basically, that whole set, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. They're my least favorite games in the series by far. I don't dislike any franchise or any level of the games anywhere near as I dislike that bunch. So if you're like me and you really didn't enjoy a lot of those games and a lot of the characters and the style, you're gonna like Sword and Shield a lot more because of that, because they definitely move away from a lot of it. Some of the stories could be so much cooler. I actually still wish they did a lot more, like, to bring up Giovanni, like the Celebi Giovanni story at the end of Heart Gold and Soul Silver if you have a GS ball. So much more interesting character development can happen in Pokemon, and they have done it in the past, but for some reason they still decide not to. And it's a real shame, because where this does kind of become a good thing is the post-game. The actual post-game, after you finish the league, you actually do expand a lot on the world and the lore of this Galar region that you are in. It's not quite, say, as engaging as the Delta episode of Oris. As much as I just said I don't like Oris basically at all, the Delta episode is like the thing that saves that game in a lot of ways and is probably the best post-game. I would say it is the best post-game in a Pokemon game yet. And this is including Sword and Shield. Its post-game is really good, but not quite to the level of Delta episode. Maybe not quite to the level of the Giovanni story at the end of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but there's more to do than, say, the Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Way more to do than, say, the end of X and Y. But like I said, not to the same quality as Oris, if that helps put it into perspective. And again, this also like really makes Hop, where I mentioned earlier, this end really draws Hop out. It really allows Hop to be an interesting character and develop and kind of come to a full end of his arc. He goes through this really big, like, questioning himself period throughout most of the game. This kind of brings that to a conclusion and works on it. And I don't know why I say kind of. It 100% brings it to a conclusion. And it's really interesting. And it also just, everything about Bean that happens in the post-game is just so good. Bean is just legitimately, like, the best character in this game. Onward now to the Pokemon. So, like, broad strokes, I love about half the Pokemon. I'm about on a good chunk of them, and there's a lot I still just really don't like. I'm not a fan of certain things in Pokemon, especially objects. The only reason why I'll give, say, ghost types a bit of a pass when like an actual inanimate object is involved in the Pokemon is because it's a ghost and it possesses things. Like Aegislash is like one of my all-time favorite ghost Pokemon and one of my all-time favorite Pokemon in general, but the new one like Poltegeist is pretty funny and cute, but there's a lot of other Pokemon that just feel really odd. The fairy types especially, I don't know what it is, but ever since they've introduced fairy types, there was basically like Sylveon, and now probably Galarian Rapidash and Galarian Ponyta, and I can't remember the grass fairy type that existed in X and Y, but most of the time the fairy designs are really bad, and it's like the new ones that they've introduced, like Milcery, or Milcery, however you want to pronounce it, that whole line is really not fun. The grass fairy new type, I don't like it at all as well, unfortunately. One of the new fairy types that I know a lot of people don't like for some reason, but I think it's great, is the Grimmsnarl line, being dark fairy, really cool. I'm just picking on fairy for a second, just because fairy all the designs are usually really bad, unfortunately. The starters this time around, I pretty much love all their first forms. Scorbunny, Sobble, and Grookey, I love all three of them. Their second evolutions, I don't like any of them besides the grass one. Thwacky's great. And then the final evolution, I like them all again. The Grookey's final line, the whole line from start to finish, is actually, in my opinion, the best, except for the fact that it has an inanimate object in the final evolution that I don't like. I think it would be better without it, and only good if he, like, pulled it out during his signature move. I won't go too much into detail for people who have not been spoiled and are still not there yet. But yeah, really unfortunate, but I like them all. And all of their signature moves are incredible. I know there was this really big backlash and hatred about the final evolutions. I don't get it. Personally, I don't get it at all. I understand to an extent if they don't like the fact that the fire and water types look a little more humanoid. But I like them both a lot, especially the final Scorbunny evolution. I really like a lot, and its signature move, Pyro Ball, the animation behind it is brilliant. It's really, really, really good, but all 3 of their signature moves are incredible. To kind of continue on positively with some of the Pokemon designs, there are a couple really just standout ones that I wanted to point out. Yamper and Bolton, that evolution line is great. The new Dragapult, the new Pseudo legendary line, is fantastic. I like all 3 of them. It's this mix of like cute, fun, but also scary and really cool. Also, Ghost Dragon, again, we haven't had that since Giratina. So this is the first like Ghost Dragon non-legendary that I think we've ever had, to my knowledge. Really, really powerful, really strong, really cool, and interestingly, a physical attacker. Really cool. Like I said, the Grimmsnarl line. Dreadnought is just one of my all-time favorite new Pokemon now. Water-Rock combination, really cool. Not a spoiler, obviously, because Dreadnought has been around for like a while that we've seen, but really, really, really cool. And all the legendaries. There's 3 major legendaries that we know of that are in the game right now. I'm sure mythic legendaries will be coming, but the 3 that exist, I like them all, and I like all their forms. They each have a multiple form. I think they're all great. The fossil Pokemon, I'm not a fan of, pretty much at all. Though I like the idea of how they've introduced fossil Pokemon in this game. It's actually really creative. Essentially, you'll take 2 different types of fossils. There's 3 different fossils. There's fossilized bird, fossilized fish, and fossilized dino. And one of those is exclusive, at least given to you. You'll get 2 of... How do I want to say this nicely? You get 2 of 2. So you'll get, like, for example, bird and dino, or bird and fish, for example. Or I think it's dino and fish. And then one of those will be exclusive to each of the Pokemon versions. The mix is cool, and I like that you mix these things to make some fossil Pokemon. However, the Pokemon that result, you get 4 total. None of them look good. I don't like any of them. And one of the reasons I don't like them is because they just feel half complete. They really do feel half and half, and I know that's the point, but I don't like it. There's one, for example, the Dino Bird, which would look incredible if it was Dino. Like, the bottom half of the Dino version of that Pokemon looks really, really cool, and then the top half just looks really, really bad. So I really wish you could also mix, say, another 3 being bird, dino, fish. That, I think, would have been way better, and then also have the hybrids of all of them. One thing you're going to notice so far about this is I'm not being that negative. I actually have a lot of good to say about Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I know a lot of people don't like that, and they want me to rip into the fact that there's no national dex. As far as Pokemon go, I didn't notice. This is by far the best diversity and range of Pokemon you will ever have in your single-player playthrough. Yes, it really sucks that there is no full national dex. There are 400 total Pokemon. There's a part of me that still doesn't like the fact that the national dex doesn't exist here, but I've yet to really feel it. Except for maybe water and ice types. There's a pretty big limitation, but there's always kind of been a big limitation on ice types. But I feel really squished on ice. I don't pretty much like most of the new ice types, even some of the new Galarian forms, and it made me just end up go back to something like Frostlass, for example. But yeah, the Pokemon variety, this is the best variety there has been in a single-player Pokemon game to date, and I can't get that mad at the lack of national dex, because I didn't really notice it, to be honest. I still haven't really noticed it. I've caught like 200 Pokemon total, and I've seen like 300 something, and I still don't feel the limitation. So I wish I could be more upset about the lack of national dex, but I can't, because the Pokemon are just so good, and there's such a good diversity. The amount of crazy Pokemon from like the old games, including to Galar, is incredible. The music as well, just to talk about the music real quickly. It's great. Every Pokemon game, the music's usually really good. In this game, it's really, really good. All the routes feel really straightforward, but also really unique, really atmospheric, and really engaging. The Wild Area bagpipe music, man, it's so relaxing and yet exciting at the same time. It feels so good to explore the Wild Area with the music that's playing. And specifically, the big thing for me, at least, the battle theme is great. And all the unique rival themes are fantastic, but legit three really big standouts. The gym battles are incredible, really, really good, really energetic, really exciting. There's the chanting, the crowd cheering, and when you Dynamax the Pokemon, there's like this really awesome moment where like all the crowd and they just go nuts. They go really crazy, and it feels so good. The rival themes are all great, especially Bede's, really big standout. You can tell I kind of like Bede, I guess, but the music is actually kind of nutty. It's like this kind of rave style, like nuts music. And then the legendary themes are all really, really, really good. But music nailed it. Completely straight up the best part about the game, probably. And it's funny because Pokemon music's always been really good. So time to talk about the big key feature in this game, the wild area. I just got to be honest. So this is the part where I'm going to be a little more torn. The wild area is just far too small. It's far too limited. There's just nothing to really explore. There's nothing that's really engaging or exciting about it beyond its premise. And the premise is great. Let me just say that when you first go into the wild area, it feels awesome. And the first zone, I was like, this is great. This is really cool. And they compared it to, say, 2 zones in Breath of the Wild. I got a hard disagree. I still think this wild... I don't know which 2 zones in Breath of the Wild they chose, but it had to be the smallest because this wild area is really tiny, really overall. You can get from one end to the other in a couple minutes. This isn't even as big feeling as like the plateau in Breath of the Wild. It's really, really small and not that diverse, really. It's like harshly diverse in a not fun way sometimes. But the premise of the wild area feels so good. I love it. I love seeing the Pokemon. I love having Pokemon just like run after you and bolt after you that are way too high level. And you're like, crap, 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 crap. And you're like actually afraid and you run away and then it hits you and you're like level 14 and it comes out, it's like, what's a level 40 Snorlax? Like, what do I do? There's nothing I can do to this. It's really fun and really exciting. And also this like sneaking up and jumping on top of Pokemon to grab them. And like knowing that there are certain places to get certain types of Pokemon is really cool. So in the first area of the wild area, on the far side of the left bit of the map, there'll be this like tower. And when you go to explore it, there's nothing really of value to explore. But you'll notice that there are all ghost types in this area. And this leads to the weather changing. And the weather constantly changing is actually where the diversity of Pokemon comes in. And this weather changing feels pretty good for the most part. So you might see Ghastlies, you might see like Litwicks or whatever, different types of Pokemon in different areas. You might get like Arachnids in one part, and then other times you might get like Gothorita, not Gothorita, but like other different types of Pokemon or whatever. And there's like raining, there's sunshine, there's hailstorm, there's sandstorm. There's like all this different things, also different to day and night. There's so much that actually changes the variety of Pokemon in a given area, and that's really cool. That is really, really, really cool. But to talk about the kind of the Cufant in the room, so to speak, it looks bad. To just kind of be as blunt as possible here, the wild area looks inexcusably bad, unforgivably horrendous. It's the whole like PS2 looking trees, N64 looking trees thing. That's real. That's there in the game. The textures look horrible. The lighting is really bad. And the lag in the wild area, if you're online, is freaking pathetic. It's frustrating. You'll go up to a den to gather watts, which is a resource you want to get. You'll get these watts out of the den when you just observe it, even if there's no Pokemon there. It might take like 5 to 6 seconds for your game to acknowledge you clicked on the den to then give you the watts. It's ridiculous. It's completely absurd. It is really cool to see people in the world and to gather like resources from them, like food and whatnot. That's pretty cool, but it's ridiculous. The wild area, great idea. Please expand upon it further. I wish there were more wild areas within the game, like different spots on the map that had more wild areas in them. Unfortunately, there aren't, and what we have is very small, very limited, very bare bones. It feels more like a proof of concept, which it might be really for the future of the franchise. I really hope they do more with it because it's actually great. It's probably my favorite new thing of the game, besides maybe the raids. And to kind of transition into raids real quick, I don't want to focus too much on raids, because it's kind of more... You can kind of play them in two ways. You can either play raiding very simply or very complex. And there are different rankings to the raiding. What happens is you go into a den. Certain dens will have Pokemon raiding, and then you can invite people to join it. The matchmaking right now is pretty boinked. It's pretty bad. That'll get fixed, I'm sure, because it's already getting better as time goes on. Some of them are mostly just you just Dynamax and whack, 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 and no one cares. Others actually require a lot of strategy. There's one that really stood out to me and my friends, which was a 5-star Butterfree encounter, where sleep powders and light screens and all this stuff that this Butterfree had, you had to figure out ways to counter it. So we would use, say, like a Fairy-type Pokemon to Dynamax in order to get the Fairy field from Dynamaxing, in order to prevent status conditions like sleep powders and paralysis. We also then had to use Pokemon like I had a Surfetch'd in order to use moves like Brick Break to get through light screens, because it would, and Reflects and all these other things, just to kind of move through these defensive things that this Pokemon have. It's really cool and really fun, and I love it a lot. The rating is really addictive, and the rewards you get are insane. You get constantly new moves, constantly new XP candies, which level up your Pokemon probably a bit too much overall, especially once you start getting into the 4- and 5-star rankings of Pokemon battles. I do wish the guard mechanic in the rating, what happens is every so often the Pokemon will put up a guard shield and will have like certain amounts of the guard shield available to you that you have to beat through. I really do wish there was more to that. I wish it would mean more things like bullet seeds and whatever might hit like multiple guards down. I think that would allow for a little more diversity to have Pokemon, say, with like you might want to have a technician person with you, like a Cincino or like a I don't know, like a Scizor or something that has the technician ability. I really wish there was also things that you could use to take advantage of Pokemon abilities like Infiltrator, like getting through the light screens and whatnot. That stuff's really cool. So overall, also being able to pass Dynamaxing on to other people. If you're the host, you get Dynamax first turn, but you can pass it to somebody else. That's actually really nice and allows for a little more diversity and strategy. Overall, the rating is great. It can only go up from here. I love what they have so far. I think it could do more and be more, and I'm sure they will. Okay, so if you want, we've been pretty mostly positive so far, and that's for good reason. I've got to be honest, I'm enjoying this game a ton, and I'm having a lot of fun. And a lot of the things that I don't like are early on, like I've said, like story, and some of the characters, and a lot of the Pokemon designs, and the wild areas graphic. The graphics of the game in general are pretty bad. They're not great. Let's just say that. Some of the times it looks really good. Most of the time it looks okay, and a lot of the time it looks really, really, really bad. From here on out, though, I'm going to be strictly positive, basically, without maybe like a couple caveats, because I want to talk about the gyms and the Pokemon League they go with in this game. The gyms, to just be straight, are the best they have ever been by a lot. The gym challenges, when people say they feel like Trials from Sun and Moon, like, yeah, I guess, but all the trials sucked. So it's probably not like a really good benchmark, but it's like, take the concept of what Trials we all wished they were and classic gyms and throw them together, and you really do have what Sword and Shield have here. All of the gyms are radically different, and some of the stuff is really fun. Whether it's from like herding Wooloos, to doing water puzzles, to swirling around like a teacup. There's a lot of different variety, and every single one of them feels super unique, and it's really, really fun. The gym challenges are great. The other thing is the gym leader battles are really, really good. This game does such an incredible job of building up the hype and the momentum and the engagement and the energy of being within these Pokemon battles and these Pokemon stadiums. And even down to Dynamaxing, which I have, after now having played, I actually prefer over Megas. I have to say, everything just feels epic and grand and incredible and awesome. Like, everything just feels right. Right down to the music, to the crowd's roar and cheering when a Dynamax Pokemon comes out. Everything. The standoff at the start before you fight a gym leader. It's just right. And when you combine that with the fact that this Pokemon League story, everything revolves around the gym challenges and the Pokemon League and the champion. Every little bit of the plot ends with that as the main goal. Even the side stories feel really good and engaging because everything revolves around you wanting to be the champion and be the best and go through this crazy harsh Pokemon challenge. And what's really cool too that the game does is at the start of the game, you'll see a ton of people who are there. They have like this big, massive opening ceremony, and there's tons of people around, tons of trainers who are going to be going through this route. And it's like by the end, you notice there's basically no one left. Like people are failing and dropping off. And it comes down to like a few of you, like 5 of you have made it. That's really cool and really good story pacing. The champion, unfortunately, is a pretty big letdown as far as a character goes. He's a big dweeb and not really fun, not really exciting, and he doesn't have much to bring to the table as far as a character goes, outside the fact that he's apparently undefeatable. He's never lost a Pokemon battle ever. That's ridiculous. There's like no way. The guy is such a dork. I just don't see it. I just imagine someone being completely undefeatable being a little more arrogant. I feel like that's kind of a natural result, is that you'd have some sort of narcissistic behavior by being undefeated. But unfortunately not for him. The battle, though, is really cool with the champion. To make this feel even better, by the way, in the stadiums in the gym, you can actually see, like, Rotoms, taking over things like cell phones and drones and like cameras and flying around the arena to give you different perspectives. So if you hold your turn and you just let the battle phase like kind of go through and see all the camera perspectives, it really is being presented like a live televised event to get all the angles and everything, and it's so epic. This is the best that I think the Pokemon League setting, this whole like trying to become the champion, this is the best the series has done this since probably Gen 1 and Gen 2, when that was like the only thing to do, was to be the very best, like no one ever was essentially. This is the best it's ever been. Since then, it's so good and so epic. Everything about this feels like you need to be the Pokemon League champion. And I mean that to every character. In X and Y, a lot of the rivals were just kind of there. One of them wanted to be a dancer. The other one like wanted to be a breeder or whatever, and like your actual rival like really was completely useless. And in this one, everyone feels like they are working to be legitimately the best. That's awesome, and I love it. So overall, my final thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield, I'm incredibly positive. I really have enjoyed this game, and it's the most fun I've had with a Pokemon game, at least through single player, and some of the multiplayer so far. And I haven't even touched the Battle Tower yet, by the way. Already the contests and everything. This is the most fun I've had since probably Platinum. And I've enjoyed, say, like Black and White 2, I've actually really enjoyed. I enjoyed X and Y, and I didn't enjoy any of Oris or Sun and Moon games, unfortunately. But this is the most fun I've legitimately had. And a lot of my friends, probably all my friends so far, have felt that same sentiment. We were all worried going into this. We were all pretty pessimistic. And maybe that's why we're coming out way more surprised and enjoyed. Or happy. Is enjoyed a word? In that context, I don't think it works. Anyway, but we're all very happy and surprised with the game. And I think that's really awesome. So yeah, if you're worried and you don't have Pokemon Sword and Shield yet, and you're just worried, you're not sure, a lot of the controversy, the whole Game Freak lied thing, and the whole national dex, yes, there's a lot of controversy around this game, unfortunately, and a lot of it is very warranted and understandable. But the product that you're gonna get if you enjoy Pokemon games, I think you'll really like it. There's a lot of fun to be had here, and it's a blast, especially if you like the whole trying to be the Pokemon champion. If that's what you like about Pokemon, which is what I do, you're going to love this. You really are. So that's my thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield. This ran a little bit longer probably than I was expecting, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like these, let me know. I like to do more detailed reviews like Divine Designs and whatnot, which I still am trying to work out the next one, but I'm such a stickler for my scripts that I just throw things away. I've done that like 3 times now with the current game I want to talk about. But hopefully this is like a good middle ground where I can be a little more ranty, but a little more jotted, but also talk about a game that I really like that's more recent. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching if you loved it. If you did like it, hit the like button. If you hated it, hit the dislike button. If you want to subscribe, feel free to subscribe. I kind of do a bunch of stuff. Gaming, the current projects I'm working on right now, I am looking at doing another quest walkthrough. Probably gonna be Pamela Redpath in World of Warcraft. A story. I do like these like WoW storytime videos and it seemed to do really well, so I might do one of those. But anyway, thank you for watching. We'll do that and some other gaming related stuff. We're also going to have our Let's Play channel is going to be back up and running at the beginning of the year. We had a lot of events happen, so a lot of stuff happened that's kind of just pushed everything back. But if you like Jerry Rigged and you know of Jerry Rigged and you watch my stuff here, that'll be back at the beginning of the year. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield, please leave them in the comments below. And I will see you next time in the next video. Okay. I don't know how to close videos. Bye. Wall. God, I suck at this.